Hey, Freedom Middle School students, this is Mr. Schwartz. Today we're going to be talking about checks and balances. So let's jump right in and check it out. So first, let's figure out, okay, what are these checks and balances? Checks and balances, here's the definition. You will want to take these down in your notes. It's when one branch of government can block the actions of another branch so that no one branch has too much power. So when we're talking about checks, we're not talking about this. We're not talking about money, but we are talking about something really important. So it's more along the ideas of one part of government can check on the other branches of government, can see what they're doing and stop them if they're doing something they shouldn't, like taking too much power. So since every branch is checking on the other two branches, the power is balanced. No one branch has too much power. And so this doesn't happen, right? We don't have one person taking all the power for himself or herself. If you remember the founding fathers, they saw what things were like when they had a king. And so they said, hey, we don't want that to happen. We want the power to be separated, and we want to keep the different parts of power to work together, but also sort of against each other to keep one branch from taking the power. The other branches will push back and stop that from happening. So you're going to want to use a graphic organizer like this. If your teacher may have given you one, that's great. If not, it's really, really simple. All you're really going to need is 3 boxes, in this case, I guess it's a hexagon, but it could be a box, it could be a circle. 3 shapes to represent the 3 branches, and then you'll just need arrows between them, right? Arrows pointing in each direction between the different branches. That's going to show the relationship between the branches. It's going to show the checks that each branch has on each other. So if you want to make your own just on a piece of paper, just make those boxes and arrows. If you have this, great. Let's follow along. We're going to be filling in these different boxes. All right, first we have the Congress. This is just really a quick review. What does each branch do? So we have the legislative branch, that's Congress, which is the House of Representatives, and the Senate. Its responsibility is to create the laws. So you want to fill in those boxes that are in your legislative branch section. Next, just a reminder of what the president does in the executive branch. So that's the president. That also includes the cabinet and the executive department. So that's what you want to write into that little box. You might not have room for all of this, but you want to make sure you know that the executive branch is the president and the cabinet, or the president and the executive departments. And his job and their job is to enforce the laws. Finally, we have the courts in the judicial branch, and we're talking about the federal courts, which would mean the Supreme Court, courts of appeal, and the district courts, and their responsibility is to interpret the law. So that's been a quick review of the branches of government. Now we're going to get into what are the checks and balances of the different branches. So you should have filled in the boxes for each branch, and now we're going to be using the boxes that go along with the arrows. Or if you're just writing on your own paper, you want to write alongside the arrows to show the checks and balances between each branch. So we're going to start with the legislative branch and the executive branch. The executive, the president, has an important check on the power of Congress. Congress gets to write the bills and vote on the bills, but they don't actually pass into law until the president signs it. Now the president could veto it, which means to reject it. So for example, let's say Congress comes up with a law where they say anyone who's a fan of One Direction can be arrested and thrown in jail at any time, should be arrested and thrown in jail. Now that bill gets to the president's desk, and he looks at this and is like, whoa, this is a terrible law. It's violating our people's rights. Plus, Story of My Life is a great song. Why would I want to veto that? Or why would I want to stop that? So he vetoes what Congress is doing. He rejects what Congress is doing and says, you know, this can't become law until you make some major changes, some major fixes to it. Congress, they also have power over the president. They can override his veto. So let's say they had actually passed a good law and the president is vetoing it, is rejecting it just to be a jerk, or because he's afraid that law will hurt him, and so the Congress can actually go over the president's veto if 2/3 of them agree. Now that's pretty hard to do. Congress rarely gets 2/3 of them to agree on the same thing, but it could happen. They could go over the president. They also can impeach the president, which is if the president is committing crimes. Like, so let's say one day the president's like, I am the president, but I also kind of want to rob some banks. I think that would be a fun hobby. And so the Congress says, whoa, we cannot have a president who is robbing banks. And so they impeach him. They vote and they agree to kick him out, to remove him as president. That would be impeaching the president, removing the president for committing a crime. So you see, we've got the president can veto laws, Congress can do impeach or override the vetoes, and here we're zooming in just a little bit more if you need that to see more clearly and finish up your notes. So you should have filled in these boxes. This is for the arrow going from Congress to the president. This is going from the president to the Congress. You should have those filled in at this time. If you need to rewind and go back to it, go ahead. Next we have between the president and the courts, so the judicial branch and the executive branch. Let's start with the courts. They can declare something the president does to be unconstitutional, and basically the president has to stop whatever it is he's trying to do that goes against the Constitution. So if a president decides, I want a new iPhone, maybe new Samsung Galaxy Tab, some Beats. Like, I just want some cool stuff for myself. And so I'm going to put a tax on the people. It's called the presidential swag tax. And all Americans have to give me, the president, $100. The courts can say, President, the Constitution doesn't give you the power to tax the American people, just create taxes. So you cannot have this swag tax. And the president has to go, okay, I'll stop. And he has to stop what he's doing because the court said so. The president, though, he has some power over the courts. He can, because he is the one who actually chooses the judges in the first place. He appoints them. He also, if the courts really mess up, he put someone in jail who the president thinks shouldn't be in jail or has been in jail long enough, he can pardon a person and set the person free. Next up, so there it is zoomed in for you if you want to see it a little bit closer for your notes. And finally, we have the courts and the Congress, the legislative and the judicial branch. So the courts can also declare laws unconstitutional. So if Congress had written a law, let's say the One Direction law, and the president, he actually liked it too, so he signed it, and now it's law. People who like One Direction are going to be thrown into jail. The courts can rule that to be unconstitutional. They can say, no, whoa, you're violating people's rights. They have First Amendment rights to freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. You can't just throw people in jail for being fans of One Direction. And so that law becomes invalid. It's unconstitutional and it's struck down. Congress, though, just like they play a part in picking the judges. So the president chooses a judge and Congress has to approve them. He has to vote. Congress has to vote yes or no on the judges. So in that way, even though the courts have lots of power over both the president and the Congress by declaring things unconstitutional, by striking them down, Congress and the president have a lot of power in the courts because a judge would never get to be on the court if they hadn't been chosen by the president and approved by Congress in the first place. So just to help you see this a little bit more clearly, there's some videos here. I'm not going to play that video in this video because, a video in a video would just be too much. It would basically be the movie Inception, and it wouldn't turn out well for any of us. So the links to this video, if you're in my class, they'll be posted on Edmodo right along with this video. If you're in Mr. Minker, Mr. Epifano, or Ms. Foley's class, they can make these videos available to you as well. Just ask them where to find these videos. All right, that is it for checks and balances. If you need to go back, rewind, pause, look through this again to finish up your notes or just to review some more, go ahead and do that. and we will talk again soon. Goodbye.